Right, so the first one to get stuck into is Liverpool, who are at home to Watford, and that's the Saturday early kickoff. Now, we all know the rule around the early kickoff, you know, whether you want to stick a bet on or you want to predict a result, don't go with the early kickoff. But if there's ever a time where I'm going to say, do go with it, it'll be this one. It's Liverpool at home to Watford. Now, Liverpool are, you know, on fire. They probably wouldn't have wanted the international break to come when it did because they wanted to keep the momentum, just like a lot of other teams in the Premier League would have at the minute. But I think, you know, they've come unscathed with no injuries. You know, there might be a little bit of tiredness from maybe the African players from the qualifiers and stuff, but I think they'll be okay. There's no Trent Alexander-Arnold. But I think they'll be okay for this match. I don't think they'll really miss Trent so much. They might do because he would add a bit more of influence to their goals because of the assist rate that he's putting off. But I don't think they'll have a problem. I think Milner's out with illness as well. So you'd think he'd fill in at a right back. But, you know, they've got players there. They've got Konate that can play there. They've got Joe Gomez. They've got players that can fill in there. So I don't think they'll be too concerned in that respect. Watford, again, have got no injuries. They'll have a wounded animal in Emmanuel Dennis, who would have been, you know, hurt by not being able to qualify for the World Cup with Nigeria. So, you know, if you're a Liverpool fan, I'd see him as a threat. But if we're going to go back to the home side, like I said, they're pulling up trees. They've won 4 of their last 5. They've only conceded 1 goal, and that was to Inter in the Champions League, which was a stunner by Lautaro Martinez. Apart from that, they've been solid without having to break out into second gear and consecutively winning games. So this is a foregone conclusion for me. There's no way. You know, I'll put my mortgage on Liverpool winning this game. Whether they get out into second gear or third gear and blow the opponent away, that's to be seen because, you know, if they're 2-0 up early doors, they'll want to reserve a lot of energy and make a few substitutions considering the fixture that they've got next week, and they'll want to make sure week by week that they've got players fit and ready for the fixtures and winning the game. So it'll be all about game management for Klopp. But I see nothing but a Liverpool win here. I know Watford had a good result against Southampton just before the international break that keeps them in the hunt for survival. But even the best Watford players, they'll be saying that we've just got to go there, shut up shop and hopefully get a 0-0, which I don't see because Liverpool aren't even conceding goals at the minute. So if you're Watford, then you can't score a goal there. One thing I can guarantee is you're not going to stop them from scoring there, unless you're one of the big boys, as in Man City, maybe a Chelsea. So I'm going to go with 3-0 here. Again, like I said, against Liverpool, against Brighton, I just don't think they'll get it out into second gear. And I think you'll see Klopp making changes in the 60th minute because they already won the game. So I think it'll be 3-0. And I think Salah will be the first goal scorer. He's another player that'll be wounded from the World Cup qualifiers, you know, going out to his mate Mane again. And I think he'll want to just concentrate on his club football, concentrate on, you know, is he going to be staying at Liverpool and just keep performing in order for his future to be decided. So I'm going to go 3-0 Salah. Now we're moving on to the 3 o'clock kickoffs. And the first one I'm going to talk on is Brighton at the Amex Stadium, and they host Norwich. Now, this is a game that I don't think, as a neutral, you'd really want to be excited about. Both teams have been nothing short of terrible in the last 5 games. I think, yeah, they've both lost their last 5. Brighton, alarmingly, have been a lot worse in their losses as well. Granted, they had Liverpool, they had Spurs, but they've only scored 1 goal in the last 5 games. And you know, considering the football that they play, the brand that they've got and what they were doing at the beginning of the season, you'd think that, you know, fair enough, they might go through a spell where they're losing 5 games, but you'd think they'd score more than 1 goal. They've got the players there. They've got Mopé, Welbeck, Trossard. You know, Pascal Gross is good from set pieces. They've got some big boys as well that you'd think they'd score from corners and stuff, but there's just something not going right there. You know, you look at Norwich, who are destined for relegation, but even in their last 5 games, they've played some reasonable opponents and they've managed to score goals. So it's a bit alarming for Brighton because, you know, they're not going to get sucked into a relegation fight because they managed to sort out their stuff in the beginning of the season. But they'll be looking to next season and thinking they need some more potency going forward and probably need to sharpen up the defence because the defence hasn't looked great since Dan Burn left. it seems like there's a lot more gaps in there. They've had to bring in Shane Duffy, which, you know, I watched Brighton against Spurs, and he looked like he ain't played for a while, and he wasn't up to the gravy of the Premier League, in my opinion. So I look at this game and I think it's going to be a game where, to be honest, there'll be a lot of good football play. The both sides actually do play really good football. There's no directness to it as much. There's no long balls or, you know, hoof it up to the target men. It's all about keeping the ball between the lines and ensuring that we play productive football. But they're just not getting the results either side. So I think it'll be one of those games where, if you're a football purist, you'll look at this game and think, yep, some nice play there, some nice dribbling, this. But I don't think either team's really bothered about the result. Even though you never want to lose a football match, a result here doesn't really do anything for either club, because Norwich are already down, and Brighton, you know, they might be looking towards finishing the top 10, but that's not really going to make any difference for them whether they finish, you know, 8th or 16th. So I'm looking at this game and I'm thinking this will be a 1-1. I think Norwich will know they're down, but there'll be players there that may feel that if they put in a few performances towards the tail end of the season, there might be a Premier League team that will take them on. There might be a team that comes up that might look at them and think, yep, you had a good season. So they'll look to play well and, you know, at least show the fans that they're trying. Brighton, again, there's players there that will be looking to get a move, so they'll be playing well. But I just think that for a long time, there's players there that have been trying to play to look for the move. And I think there's a few players in there that know they're going to secure one anyway. So they're kind of just on holiday for a reason. You know, you've got players like Trossard, Mopay, Basuma. These are players that come the end of the season, Premier League players will be looking at them to bring them in. And these are players that, you know, they might not get into your top 6 so much, but they'll get into, you know, an Aston Villa, an Everton, that are teams that, you know, a Newcastle that are a lot bigger than Brighton as we speak. So I'm looking at that being a 1-1, be a good game for the purists, but as a neutral in general, not really one that you're going to enjoy. Next, we move on to Turf Moor, where Burnley entertain the champions, Man City. Now, if we talk about the home team first, I generally thought there was a period in the season where I thought, yeah, this is what Burnley do. You know, Burnley will always be touted to be, this is the season that they go down and they get a good couple of results. So they got a good result at Palace, getting a draw there. They beat Spurs and they beat Brighton away. So you kind of thought, okay, there we go. There's their little momentum. They'll go and get the points to keep them up. But then they've just had a little dip. And, you know, one thing that was alarming, that, you know, Chelsea are a world-class side, but they got absolutely battered by them. And, you know, with Burnley, they don't often get battered. They lose, but they don't get battered. So that was a bit alarming there. And they, you know, now they're entertaining Man City, who, you know, we all know that the way they play football, in terms of a brand, is probably the best in the Premier League in terms of what you want in a football team, so to speak. Everybody's each their own. It's pretty much either Man City or Liverpool. But, you know, Burnley need to be wary that this is a team that if you concede first, they'll just keep the ball and it'll just be frustrating. And Burnley haven't got a side where they can pick Man City off at the counter. And I think Man City will have enough at the back to deal with the long balls over the top. You know, them getting rid of Chris Wood was a big miss, but they've got Weghorst, who is a problem to anybody. But I just think after a little while, there's only so much of that you can do. And that proved against Chelsea. So I look at Burnley and think they won't be looking at this game to win it. But if you're Burnley, you can't just keep picking and choosing with sort of 9-10 games left to go. You need to go and win these games, because if a Leeds or an Everton start picking up a 2 or 3 wins on the spin, you're going down. So a big miss for Burnley is they're missing Ben Mee, I think, to a knee injury. Eric Peters as well, and them two are vital to their normal back four. So I think if you're Pep, you probably go into this game thinking you're going to win it anyway. But without Ben Mee, who's probably their best defender, along with Tarkowski, you kind of get a bit of confidence from there. If you're looking at City as well, You're going to be playing a City that are going to be rampant. They ain't, you know, Liverpool will have won that game, I'm very confident, unless something crazy happens. So they'll be looking at that game under a bit of pressure and be saying to themselves, we need to keep winning, especially with the game coming up against Liverpool. You know, if they were to end up doing what they did against Crystal Palace and absolutely battering them and getting a 0-0, which can happen because it did happen at Palace, then you find yourself even further away from the summit with Liverpool. If we look at City, there's no Diaz. I think he's questionable. That they'll need him, but I think with, you know, if they've got Laporte and Stones, they're the sort of people that are good on the ground as well as up in the air. So I think they'll be able to cope with Burnley, because Burnley won't be attacking. They'll be attacking in spells rather than it being a constant threat, because City will have the ball all the time. So if I go into this game, I'm going to say that City, it's one of those games where City are just going to control the game. They'll go and win it 2-0. If I was going to go over goal scorer in this one, it'd be Laporte. You know, I think Burnley are known for defending set pieces very well, but without Ben Mee, that reduces the percentile a little bit for me. So I'm going to go with a 2-0 Laporte. You know, what City are good at is they haven't got a striker, but they're getting people within the team to contribute towards their goal tally. So this would be one of those where you'd expect it to be a Mahrez or, you know, a De Bruyne, but I think it would be a Laporte to either score the first goal or to score in this game. Next, we move to the West London derby for the afternoon, which is Chelsea at home to Brentford. A West London derby, which will excite the Brentford fans. You know, I don't think a lot of them would have ever been to a West London derby like that, especially in the top division. So it'll be a good day out for them. I doubt they'll be too optimistic, but, you know, again, it's you never know in the Premier League. But if there's something I do know is that Chelsea are on form. They battered Burnley before the international break, and they've had a couple of injuries that we thought would be detrimental to their form in Chilwell, Reece James, Christensen, but they've ploughed on and got on with it quite comfortably. They're in a position where they're not in a title race, but they're not going to drop out the top four. But I think Tuchel's doing a great job in making sure that they have that tunnel vision and make sure that they keep winning games, because that puts them in good stead for a potential good Champions League run. You know, I think a lot of people forget that they're the defending champions and they could quite easily go and do it again, especially if they get past Real Madrid. So it'd be a good game for Chelsea to go into and keep that momentum going. And for Brentford, they'll be looking at it thinking that they need one more win to secure status in the Premier League. They wouldn't be looking at Chelsea, but if they could get it in that game, it'd be great. But I personally don't see it. Brentford don't really have any issues going forward in terms of injuries. They're in decent form. They could have grabbed an equaliser at Leicester, but didn't manage to pull it off in the 2-1 defeat. You know, they got really important wins at Norwich and Burnley, respectively, and they needed those because they were the rivals around them. So they'll be looking at this game thinking, if we can get a result, great, but they'll be looking at other fixtures in the next few games that can secure the status. I think the only issue that they've got is Ivan Toney, who keeps going on social media, pretty much making it obvious that he doesn't want to be at Brentford. For me, if he just let his football do the talking, he'll get the move away from Brentford anyway. So that's their only issue, and I'm sure they're keeping all that in-house. But if we look back to the fixture, I think this would be a nice fixture for Chelsea. It'd be a nice day out for their fans. You know, another fixture to forget about the animosity that's going around with Abramovich and all the sale of the club. But I think they're doing very well to, you know, put that to the back of their minds and get the results. So I think this will be a game where Chelsea will win it 3-0. I think they'll just have too much for Brentford. They play some slick football, get the wing-backs involved, and I think they'll win this quite comfortably. So I'm going to go 3-0 with Havertz to score either first or any time. I'm quite confident that he'll score first. He's on some good goal-scoring form and arguably their best player at the minute. Then we go to another 3 o'clock kickoff, which is Leeds as they're at Ellen Road hosting Southampton. Leeds, you know, there's another team I thought looking dodgy, but they've gone and won 2 games, and I think that's got them really bouncing. You know, the Norwich game, last minute winner. You know, Ellen Road was going off, and then again it happened at Wolves. You know, 2-0 up, 2-0 up Wolves were. Comfortable, feet up. The next thing you know, Raul Jimenez gets sent off and Leeds just rampant and go and score 3 goals in quick succession and go and win the game. So it was a great result for them. You know, nobody in the Premier League has a defined right to go to Wolverhampton away and go and win, because they've all, for the last few years, they've been a solid outfit, and there's bigger teams that have gone there and lost quite comfortably. So for them to be 2-0 down and bring it back like that was brilliant. So they'll be galvanised, and there'll be another team that didn't want the international break to come round. They've got a few injuries though, which I feel for them. They've got Bamford, who's gone back on into the doctor's room. They've got Rafinha, who's down with illness. Junior Firpo, even though he hasn't been great this season, he's out. Tyler Roberts as well, another attacking player's still out from what I know. So they've got a few injuries, but I think they've got enough to get them going. They do play a lot more of a reserve style, which I'll give credit to the new coach for, because the way they were doing, it was just getting pointless, really. They were just running around like headless chickens. Everyone thought it looked great, but then they lost 4-0. So it's like, well, it doesn't really look that great, does it? If you go to the opponent, Southampton, if I'm honest, they're on the beach now. They've got their 35 points. I think that's enough for you to secure status this season, with the other teams in Watford and Norwich being so bad. Again, you'd want to just make sure you get that one more victory just to rubber stamp it. But Hassan Hertel will be looking towards next season, making sure that he builds on a stronger team, making sure that he can keep Ward-Prowse, because I think there'll be a few people sniffing around him with his set-piece credentials and the way he's been playing this season. I don't think they'll have to worry about too many outgoings, because the players that they've got at the minute, Southampton is the right club for them. I don't think they'll be going anywhere unless Southampton want to sell him. So I think this will be a game where Southampton will want to win. You know, you can't really say that a team don't want to win a game. But I think Leeds will just have a bit more about them to want to win the game, because they know full well that their status hinges on it. So I'm going to go with another close game, but I think Leeds are going to win this one 2-1. I see Rodrigo scoring in the game, or scoring first. He broke his duck just before the international break. He hadn't really been scoring, and this is a guy that 2 years ago was starting up front for Spain, in front of people like Morata and Diego Costa. So we all know what he should be doing. He just hasn't ticked the right boxes. So I think he'll score in today's game like he did against Wolverhampton, and Leeds will then feel, if they get the result, that they can push forward and secure another season in the Premier League. Last of the 3 o'clock kickoffs, we've got Wolves, who are at home to Aston Villa. Round the corner from my house, 10-minute walk away. I live in the area where everybody's Wolves, So it does feel close to the chest. I do like a Midlands derby. I've lived up here long enough to now enjoy them. And, you can see that unless you live in the Midlands, you'll never understand that the rivalries are actually quite tense. Outside the Midlands, you'd think it would be, a Tottenham Arsenal, a Man United Liverpool. Mate, you come and live in the Midlands, it goes off with games like this. So if I go to the home team first, they'll be disappointed with the result before the international break. Jimenez getting sent off after being 2-0 up, and they couldn't hold on to even get a draw. They end up losing 3-2 to Leeds. Wolves, have had a decent season. There was a point where you looked at them and thought they were going to get top 4, and then they let a couple of results let them down. But they've been relatively solid, top 3 or 4 defence in the league the whole season through. Bruno Lage's got them playing some good football, and they're a really solid team. If Wolves don't get rid of any players and they invest in that squad properly, they'll be a major threat to the apparent top 6. I think they're a very good side, very good setup. And considering they haven't scored that many goals, if they were to end up bringing in a bit more potency up front, they would be a proper problem for everybody, because the defence is solid enough. But, in terms of this game, I don't think Raul Jimenez will be playing. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but, if he's been sent off, then he'll miss the next game, which is this one. So their major goal threat will be out of the fixture. If you look at Aston Villa, again, they're another team that haven't really been scoring goals. They've got players like Danny Ings, Ollie Watkins, you'd think to yourself they should have at least sort of 10, 15 goals a pop by now. But from what I know, Ollie Watkins is on about 7, and Danny Ings, I know he's had injuries and stuff, but he's only on about sort of 4 or 5, with Jacob Ramsey on 6 goals in between the two of them, who for me is one of the brightest English prospects. He's a great box-to-box midfielder. But I think because both teams are lacking goals, they're lacking a little bit of urgency. I watched Villa against Arsenal, and I honestly thought Arsenal were going to have a major problem there and drop some points. But without Arsenal being great, they didn't really need to do anything because Villa were terrible. Like, every single one of their players was just terrible. So unless they upskill in the way that they applied themselves with both teams from last fixtures, I can only see this one being a draw, which is what I think it'll be. A lot of the time, these games are good games. You know, the last time these lot met, I remember Wolves losing and they're winning 3-2. But I think with Raul Jimenez missing, Ruben Neves is injured as well. I think it would be a cagey game. It'd be, you know, the fans will be making more noise, but I don't think he'll have too much influence on the pitch. And I could see this being a 1-1. And if I'm going to go for a first goal scorer or someone to score in the game, I think it will be Trincao for Wolves. A lot of Wolves fans have complained about his form and he's a flop from Barcelona, but I think in the last few fixtures, you've seen that he's slowly getting better. So I think this will be the game where he can take his career on forward in arguably one of the biggest games for Wolves. Right, we're moving to our final fixture on Saturday afternoon, and it is Manchester United at Old Trafford, and they host Leicester City. If I was going to title this game, it's like no Vardy, no party. I don't think with Jamie Vardy out, they're going to get a result at Old Trafford. Now, not to say that Man United have been in blistering form, because they haven't been. But when Man United have got their victories this season under Ralph Rangnick, they haven't really been great, but they've got the result. And, you know, for me, that's the most important thing, especially if they're trying to get to the top 4. The form hasn't been, in terms of playing, hasn't been great. They'll be disappointed that they got knocked out by Atletico in the Champions League. But for me, that, you know, Man United, the way they were and the animosity around the club, I don't think they were going to go and win the Champions League. So I think it does them a favour to at least make sure that they're qualifying for it next season. And if they're getting a new coach in and, you know, reinforcements and stuff, then it puts them in good stead. So I think, you know, with Fernandes, who's been off form, you know, smacking it for Portugal, Ronaldo being Ronaldo, they haven't got too many injury concerns. Maybe the only concern would be the mindset of Maguire. You know, he got booed madly against England, and I feel sorry for the player, not because of his bad performances, but realistically, Gareth Southgate shouldn't be picking someone that's been on bad form, because he's only going to get a bad reception, because he comes across like he's going to get picked no matter what, when there's a lot of players out there that have been playing a lot better than him. So that's on the manager of England to sort out that problem, because he's the one who made the mistake in the first place. But it depends how Maguire's head is going to be when he comes into this game. He'll be probably relieved that Vardy can't play, because Vardy would cause him all sorts of problems. But I think this is a game where Man United will just get it over the line. Leicester, again, we've got injuries, you know, namely Vardy and Ndidi, who for me are their best players, along with Tielemans. But again, Man United have to be careful, because as much as I think they should win it with the players that they've got on the pitch, if you fall asleep, Leicester on their day aren't the worst side. But I think with no Vardy, they lack a bit of potency. You know, Iheanacho maybe, but I just don't see it. I see a 2-0 Manchester United, and I think Bruno Fernandes will get himself on the sheet. I think he'll be relieved that he's scored goals for Portugal of importance. He'll probably feel slightly that he's the main man for Portugal at the minute, and took it away from Ronaldo, who wasn't the guy that scored the goals that evening. So I think it'll be Bruno Fernandes to score either in the game or score first. And if there's going to be anybody else that scores another goal, it's going to be Mr. Ronaldo, isn't it? You know, full well he's capable of scoring goals left, right and centre. So for me, Bruno Fernandes is going to score in the game, but so is Ronaldo. Right, And now we move on to Sunday's games. The first and foremost one will be at 2 o'clock, which is West Ham as they host Everton at the London Stadium. If we go to the home side first, West Ham, as I keep saying, as much as they're rivals to the club I support, Tottenham, I love watching West Ham this season. They're a solid outfit. They've got greatness about them. You know, currently they're falling a little bit short of the top 4 race. They're still in it mathematically. You know what, you can't write off West Ham because if results were to go in their favour, then great. But then they're looking at Spurs, Arsenal, and Manchester United imploding, which is a very difficult task. I think they would have been dealt a massive blow with the loss to Tottenham before the international break. But again, people are not talking about the fact that West Ham could qualify for Champions League football for the Europa. You know, they're through to the latter stages of that competition now, and they knocked out the most successful club in that competition over the period of the whole thing it's existed. So you can't really say that West Ham aren't going to go and win it. Of course, it's a competition and it's hard, but they could always qualify for the Champions League that way. And I think David Moyes will be saying that to himself quite quietly. He won't throw the Premier League top 4 in the bin by any stretch of the means, but I generally think that West Ham will still look at it. I think we've got a lot going on for us in the season. There's still got a lot going on, West Ham. It's like everyone seems to think that West Ham's season's doom and gloom, but they could finish top 6 or top 7 and have a Europa League final under their belt at the end of it. So that's an unbelievable season for them, and they've got some really good players. So when you look at this fixture, they're very good at home, and they're good at home without playing well. Sometimes they've had a few performances where they haven't played great and got the victory. They played Wolves and they played Aston Villa. Didn't play extremely well and got the wins. So I'm looking at them in this game, and they're playing Everton, who for me have been the biggest disappointment in the whole league. I still can't get my head around the fact that low in the Premier League, and you know, trying to survive in the Premier League is crazy. You never thought Everton would do that, but they are where they are. Frank Lampard's got a really hard job on his hands. He'll be absolutely thrilled with the victory that they got at Newcastle. You know, broke his hand celebrating and that. So they'll need to build on that. But again, they played Crystal Palace in the FA Cup, and that was their chance to build on something. And it was limp and pathetic. They got battered by Crystal Palace, who didn't even go into second gear, and they got whipped. So, you know, for me, the Everton squad doesn't come across like a squad that's going to be galvanised from wins. It's just like Frank Lampard's got a hard job there. But again, it doesn't matter. They've got to do what they've got to do. They've got to find some sort of form. They would have grouped in an international break. A lot of the players wouldn't have been called up, so they've got to go there, and they've just got to start performing and getting the results. But no matter what Frank does, I don't think they do it at West Ham. I think West Ham will win this game comfortably. They'll win it by a 2-goal margin. Personally, I think it'll be 2-0, and I think it'll be Lanzini who scores the first goal or scores within the game. I just think West Ham would be too much for them, and I don't think they'll break their defence down, especially with Calvert-Lewin still trying to find his feet, and Richarlison's not on the greatest form. I just don't see where Everton get their goals from to get a result at West Ham. And then we come to the final match of the weekend, so to speak, on the Sunday, which will be Tottenham versus Newcastle, and it's at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. If I'm going to go to my club, Tottenham first, we've picked up a bit of form. We've stopped the habit of a win-loss with a great win against West Ham. I enjoyed that game very much so, as you would have seen in one of my last video reactions. If you haven't seen it, go back to it. You'll enjoy that, especially you'll see me screaming. Yeah, we picked up a bit of form. I'm glad we've come back injury unscathed. We've got Ben Davies, who came back early. I just think it was just a knockdown. I think he'll be okay to play. And I can't believe I'm saying it, but he's integral to the back three that we play. I can't think of anyone else that I want to play on the left-hand side of the back three of the centre halves. So it looks like we'll go unchanged unless there's anything that's going on in-house. Harry Kane just been on great form. He scored again for England. Granted, it was a penalty, but he's been on great form for us. So I'm happy that he's come back fit. This is a game where historically over the last few years, Newcastle have troubled us at home. Under Steve Bruce, whoever it was, they've given us a few issues. And for me, they've got some players that can really cause you a problem if you ain't alert. You've got, Alan Saint-Maximin, Joe Linton's, proved to be back into a position that's comfortable with him. And Eddie Howe's got them playing more on the front foot with Gourmet in there as well. So I'm not going to say this is a foregone conclusion. It's going to be a difficult game. If we don't keep Saint-Maximin under wraps, it could be wraps for us. Do you know what I mean? But if I look at Newcastle, Eddie Howe's got them playing a really good way of football. Newcastle, we're looking at thinking one more win and we're safe. They're not going to really look at it and think that this is where we're going to get it from. It'll be the same as Brentford when they go to the bridge. They're not going to really look at it and say, let's get it. But we've still got to apply ourselves to say, let's go and get it, because we've got to get a win from somewhere. You can't just say, let's not try and win this game. You've got to try and win every game in football. So it's going to be a cagey game, I think. I don't think it's going to be like when we played Everton and when we played West Ham, where I spent most of the evening, singing songs and enjoying the game. I think it'll be a lot more cagey because Newcastle always tend to bring it to us when we're at home. So I'm going to go for a cagey 2-1 Spurs, because I think we're going to need the win. United probably would have wrapped up a result at Leicester, but even if they haven't wrapped one up, you've got to go and win these games to stamp your authority. In my eyes, I'm not saying we're going to win every game, but if Tottenham were to win the rest of the games the rest of the season, they're guaranteed Champions League football, because I think Arsenal, with the fixtures that they've got, and Man United with the form that they're in, you win your games, that's it. It's sorted, isn't it? So I think it'll be a 2-1. If I'm going to go for a goal scorer, there's only one guy for me. Harry Kane will score. He likes to score against Newcastle. He's on form at the minute, and the way Harry Kane's mentality is, I'm not saying he's going to catch Salah, but that's what his main goal will be, because we all know as much as he'll be playing for the team, he'll want to be getting those accolades for himself. So I think it'd be a 2-1. It'd be a cagey game. It'd be a game at the end of the game where I'll probably need my asthma pump or something, because something would have happened where it's 2-1 and Newcastle could get a penalty, VAR and all that craziness. So yeah, I'm going to go with a 2-1 and Tottenham to put the pressure on to Arsenal, who play on the Monday. As we all know with banter, Tottenham are very good at not winning things, but putting the pressure on. So that's what we'll probably do come Sunday afternoon. Right, now we go to the Monday night fixture. We all love a Monday night fixture. And I think this one's going to be a cracking one, especially if Tottenham have got the result that they need. And it's Crystal Palace, who are at home to Arsenal. Now, we all know that there's more to this than just being a London derby. There's the Vieira factor. One of Arsenal's greatest players in Ian Wright played for both sides. There's a lot of history between the two clubs. But this is a game where, City found out a couple of weeks ago, if you're not on job and you can't finish against Palace. Palace are a really difficult side. They're for me, they're a very solid top 10 side under Vieira. No one gives Vieira that much credit for the way he's continued for Palace to be solid, but they're actually playing some good football. They've got Elise, who's one of the youngest prospects, but best youngest prospects in the Premier League, top player. They've got some players like Edouard. They've still got Zaha. Conor Gallagher's pulling up trees. They got a really good side, and I think if Vieira can keep them together and put a few additions together, then they'll be trying to say to themselves to push for European spots anyway. So we've got a very good nucleus there. If you look at Arsenal, I'm somebody that speaks football before I speak, rivalries and stuff. And, Arsenal have been playing some top football. And, if Lacazette was banging goals, I think top four be a top four, he'd be dead. He'd be like Arsenal have confirmed that. I think that's where their issue lies. They haven't got somebody in that's replacing Aubameyang's goals. If they had Aubameyang's goals right now and he fitted into the system, they're pushing for third probably with the way they're playing and the good run of results they've had. I think they've won 4 of the last 5, and the only one they lost to was Liverpool, which is no great shame because they're a top side. But this is going to be a difficult game for Arsenal. all you'll hear the whole game is songs of Vieira from both sides because of what he did at Arsenal and the fact that he's the coach at Crystal Palace. But these are one of those games where I feel that it's going to be tough. I've tried to look at it without putting my Tottenham hat on. You know, it's pretty easy for you to say, oh, you know, hopefully Tottenham win and Arsenal lose. But when I look at this, I think that it's going to be a draw. I think it's going to be a 2-2. I think it's going to be a Desmond. If anyone's going to win it, I'd say that Arsenal will just nick it, but I just think it'll be a 2-2. I think it'll be end to end. You know, there'll be some great battles, but I think Crystal Palace are going to have a lot for Arsenal. You know, Xhaka and Partey have had a great partnership over the last few weeks, but are they going to be mobile enough to deal with the energy of Conor Gallagher? You know, that guy just runs non-stop. He's probably running as I speak. You know, he's a top athlete and a top player. I think it'd be a 2-2. I think it'd be end to end. I'm not sure if Martinelli's back, but then Smith Rowe is just as good an addition there. And I think it'll be a really good game. You know, once everyone's finished work on Monday, that'll be a cracker of a game that we'll all enjoy for whatever reasons. You know, namely, if you're an Arsenal fan, you'll enjoy it if you win, and the Palace one if you win as well. So I think it'll be 2-2. And if I'm going to say a goal scorer in this game, I'm going to go with Zaha. I'm going to go with Zaha to either score first or score within the game. He went quiet for a bit, but I think he's found his feet now, and I think he'll have a good game and give Cedric at right back a torrid time in this game. And if it's end to end, Zaha, that's where his skills benefit Crystal Palace. So I think it'll be a 2-2, it'll be a cracking game to watch. I can't wait for that. Obviously, as a Spurs fan, I hope that Arsenal lose, but as a football fan, I actually look forward to that game once I finish my day's work. So we'll see.